Hello, I'm Derek, Pro Wrestling Reviews. It's humble beginnings. So, I have a list here of the attendance, the venues, the event, the ticket sale time, the amount of time for the tickets to sell out, the attendance, the venue, and then the buy rate or viewership. I'll refer to some numbers here. You can pause it right now if you want, so you can see the numbers that I'm talking about. Okay, good. First of all, everything I say is the best I could possibly find with any news articles or sites, whether it's WrestlingIncorporated.com or Ringside or Forbes. Those sites definitely I trust. Like Wrestle Talk is a great YouTube channel. Everything they say is total facts. Same thing with What Culture. Yeah. So all of the numbers I talk about in that thing that you could have paused it at, they're the actual numbers. That's the numbers. Those, yes, that is the fact. I looked it all up, but I'm not gonna sit here and give like a whole bunch of different references to all this different stuff I'm talking about. I'm sorry, I just don't feel like putting that much effort forward. I mean, all the numbers are 100% accurate. Go and search it on Google. But I do provide an outline. You can always have the opportunity of pausing the camera and seeing it. So anyway, let's look at attendance, AEW attendance and venues. Now, people say that AEW, oh no, they're not going to be able to compete with WWE. They can't be on the same level. WWE may not have as much money, but they're so sunk into everything, and they've got so much established, and there's so much around, and all their money they have is to invest in wrestling. You know what I mean? It's profitable. It's making money, and all this other stuff. That's WWE, and I'm thinking, okay, well, you know what? WWE may own a lot, they may be well established, they may have long history, you know, but I think AEW is standing up and saying, you know what, WWE is good, but they don't own pro wrestling. And right now, NXT is going through, from what I can understand, I could be wrong, but from what I understand, Triple H goes to different territories. He just buys up companies. That's what he's doing. They're expanding themselves like a corporate brand. As a corporate brand, they go to other places, and all of the top ones, they buy them out. Anything that's publicly traded, WWE just buys out. And then they make NXT UK. Now they're talking to CMLL in Mexico. They're going to have NXT Mexico. Then they're talking to a Japanese promotion. They're going to have NXT Japan. But these other those are not going to be the same companies. They're going to buy them out. They're going to buy as many as they can out. In the United States, they bought WCW and DCW, and now they're looking at CMLL Plus, which is Mexico Plus, what they've already done in England. Like, WWE is trying to take over the entire world, and AEW standing up there saying, people want an alternative. Yours is sports entertainment. In order for you to be classified as entertainment, that means that there has to be some kind of element beyond the physical, because if it's only the physical, it's not entertainment, it's a sport. And for some reason, Vince McMahon does not want to let go of that word entertainment. He thinks word association is so powerful. But AEW is here to say, you know what, we can have something that's sports-based, and we can do well, and we can sell just as much as you, and you don't have to be the number one in the world right off the bat, and you don't have to own all the different territories and have all this other companies absorbed into you and have this much history to be the better. And it's true. When you look at All In last year is sold out in 39 minutes. There was 11,263 tickets sold. Sears Center, Chicago, and the buy rate was 50,000. That's pretty good considering SummerSlam by the WWE recently, through traditional cable, only had like 19,000 and something, like just under 20,000, and All In had 50,000. You go to Double or Nothing at 113,000 viewership. That's literally at least five. That's like 4 to 5 times more views than what SummerSlam got. Money in the Bank, Double or Nothing outperformed Money in the Bank and Stomping Grounds before and after it, and All Out garnered more demand for tickets than any other WrestleMania in history, 164,000 requests, of which there was, I believe, 120,000 confirmed to be people. Like, All In sold out in 39 minutes. Double or Nothing sold out in 4 minutes. Fyter Fest and Fight for the Fallen, I don't think they sold out. But they were free pay-per-views. They were free pay-per-view events, you know. It was the same stage entrance recycled. They didn't get their own. It didn't get its own stage entrance. Now there's All Out coming up. That sold out in 15 minutes, 11,000 tickets. Fyter Fest and Fight for the Fallen both sold 5,000 tickets. And then Wednesday Night Dynamite in Capital One is 10,000 plus. And then Boston and Philly are over 5,000 each. Boston and Philly both sold out in 1 hour. In Washington, Capital One Arena in Washington, that sold out in like just between 2 and 3 hours. And there might be so there's 10,000 tickets sold now according to the Young Bucks, and they might have a chance to open up another 2,000 seats. That's what they're looking at. And then it's interesting because after that, the Boston and Washington are 5,000 and 8,000 again. And when you look at the pattern, here, you see that. When you look at the pattern over here, 11,000, 11,000, 5,000, 5,000. 11,000, 10,000, smaller, and then are they going to go for a big one here? Like they keep, when you look at it, there's like a pattern. They have 10,000, between 10 and 14,000 they're looking at right now to make their upper end for the current moment, and then for their lower shows they're looking at attending between 5 and 8,000. Between 5 and 8,000. I think when tickets reach 9,000, yeah, you can consider it a lot of people, I guess. But it's interesting too because when you look at WWE attendance for their shows, the Raw and their SmackDowns and their smaller pay-per-views, AEW is pulling the same numbers as WWE, and they're starting out from nowhere, and WWE is so huge, and they have so much money, and they're so well connected, and they're total anti-competition, which I think, in my opinion, I don't understand how the WWE gets away with this. I really don't. I don't understand how the WWE gets away with this. Like, the WWE wants total mainstream market monopoly. They have a monopoly. Not until AEW started. But the thing is, the Competition Bureau should say there has to be at least two. You know what I mean? I don't understand how AEW can come in and just annihilate all the other big ones. Anything with a national TV deal, anything more readily available to everybody, anything on that scale, you know, on a national level, nationals, mainstream. There's there's like mainstream wrestling, or there's like independent wrestling. There's national level wrestling and independent scene level wrestling. Independent scene might have TV deals with certain channels, and they might have their own shows on those channels and stuff, but it's not on a national level, not to the level of TNT or and ITV in the United States and TSN in Canada and Fight internationally, including Canada, and Bleacher Report for all of North America. Those are their streaming partners. All of this stuff that AEW is doing is falling in line with the stuff that WWE is doing for the regular shows. I mean, WWE is huge shows. I think for WrestleMania 35, I could be totally wrong. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think they said they had 83,000 people there for WrestleMania, and All Out got more demand than that. But yeah, it was only being held in an arena that can handle like just over 10,000. So they're doing a lot better than what people thought. They're doing a lot better. Their attendance and venues. The first point I want to make after I went rambling here, AEW attendance and venues. 1. AEW continues to sell out every venue they get, with Washington, D.C. sold out in 3 hours and both Boston and Philadelphia sold out in 1 hour. WWE gets fan attendance, good fan attendance. WWE gets good fan attendance for bigger pay-per-views, but have been repeatedly canceling house shows. They cancel a house show on the same night as AEW All Out. I believe that Tony Khan is looking at the performance of WWE in terms of fan attendance, pay-per-view buys, and more. Then he's setting those marks for AEW so they can know what to avoid, right? Not try to start off like going for Madison Square Garden. And the second thing I want to talk about is roster size and makeup. Roster size and makeup. With AEW, like I remember Cody Rhodes saying, okay, 40% of our wrestlers is known. You know about 40% of our total roster. And I'm thinking that's interesting because there are 30. You could, like, again, anything I'm saying, just go and check it online, man. Sometimes I'll include links, but that's different if I'm working with somebody else or something. We know about 37 confirmed male wrestlers and 15 female wrestlers. We know that for a fact. That's what we have. That's 52. Now, if 52 is only 40% of their entire roster, then how big would the roster have to be? Well, you do a math calculation, and it turns out to be 130 would be their entire roster. Because if 52 is only 40% of it, then math can tell you that 100% of the roster is 130. So, and we know about 52, so you take 52 away, turns out to be 78. There's 78 wrestlers that we don't know about. 78 wrestlers. 78, man. Like, we have 15 female and 37 male that we know about, and Babe Priestley and Shakira Shirita or some shit, and I think one other one too, are having matches in Japan. But there's still 78 wrestlers they have signed that we haven't seen yet. Now, I really gotta believe that AEW is going hard and heavy on the training centers or partnerships with other gyms. They've got to be. They've got to be. 78? 78. Every single big name worth talking about that you could possibly think of, that anybody might have heard of. It's all. Orange Cassidy was talked about, for God's sakes. He has his hands in his pockets all the time. I don't understand what the hell that's about. But to round out their roster, even if they have another 78, I think that what they need to do is add 10 strong, tough female wrestlers like Britt Baker and Babe Priestley. That pretty look, tough look, appealing look, appealing but deadly. I'd like to see at least 5 white girls. I'm sorry, call me what you want. Like, Jazz, I'm glad that we're getting her. Yeah, I've never known about Ivalissa. Teal Piper. I don't know anything about her, but she's Roddy Piper's daughter, so it'll be interesting to see what she's like. So there's 78 wrestlers by AEW that we don't know about. And for AEW attendance and venues, AEW is doing really well. People who like WWE say like they the bigger venues won't open up for them and stuff like that. They got Capital One Arena on Wednesday night by a promotion that's never done a TV episode before. I sold out in 3 hours. There's more demand for AEW All Out than any WrestleMania in history. You can look that up. Like, I just wish that people would realize that I don't want WWE to go to business. I don't want AEW to go to business. I remember growing up in the 90s, man. I remember watching Monday Night Dynamite, and then other weeks I would watch Monday Night Raw. And I thought that WCW was way better than WWE. They were. I liked them way better, but I watched them more for a long time. But then in 2000, and like mid 99 on 99 and 2000 and 2001, I watched wrestling a lot, and that was like a really good time in the Attitude Era. WCW was going out. I remember when they went out, and then ECW was another one that other people watched, and they had problems with their TV deal, so that fell out too. And internal bad decisions that were being made by both, they threw themselves out, even though WCW is still the number one rated show on their channel. So ECW gone, and then WWE bought those two. And I remember when that happened, and it went from Sting and Luger and like Chavo Guerrero and Ultimo Dragon and Rey Mysterio was there at the time, and Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko, man, and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. Like, they made it, like Goldberg, Booker T. Like, there's other names that I can't think of right now, man. They made so many. I remember Kevin Nash once said, "Oh, the WCW, all they ever did was steal WWE's wrestlers." No, they didn't, man. No, they fucking didn't. Nobody knew who Chris Benoit or Eddie Guerrero or Rey Mysterio or Ultimo Dragon was. Nobody knew about any of them. Nobody knew about Scott Steiner or Booker T or Sting or Goldberg. We didn't know about any of those guys. They all got their fame on WCW. That's where people got to know them. Like, there's other wrestlers that came from... Dean Malenko is another one. Dean Malenko started in WCW. He never did start in WWE. He's with AEW now, Dean Malenko. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, there's AEW and there's WWE. I don't want either one to go out. I would like to see WWE get knocked down a couple of pegs. I would like to see them, like... I would like to see them not get enough attendance to do shows to the point where nobody's coming to the shows. It's a lost cause. There's no point to have it. They have to cancel that show. And if they keep canceling shows, then eventually they're going to have to drop a show. Eventually they're going to have to say, okay, we're discontinuing 205 Live because there's just no interest. There's no point in holding a show when there's nobody there to watch it. And then I would like them to have to say the same thing about SmackDown. I would like them to have to be able to say the same thing about SmackDown, saying, you know what, SmackDown's ratings have declined and doing worse and worse and worse. we're going to get rid of SmackDown. We're going to phase it out. It's not going to be there anymore. The roster and the belts are gone. They will live. They'll either serve out their contracts or they'll be paid out of their contracts. Companies could buy out contracts too. I don't know why AEW doesn't buy out contracts. I don't know. Why don't they? Like Brian Cage, I would go after him with a fucking vengeance if I was Tony Khan, man. I'd say we'll give you like $10 million for him. I would. I really would. I think he's the best thing that AEW needs right now is fucking Brian Cage. I swear to God. He's a huge fucking built-ass motherfucking brick shit house, but he's still got that athleticism. He's like Scott Steiner, but with some thought put into it before started going crazy with the workouts and roids and shit. Brian Cage is not on roids. He's not. But I remember when WCW went out, man, and it was fucking horrible. It was terrible. I stopped watching wrestling. I watched wrestling for like 2002, and then I stopped watching wrestling when Hogan left the WCW on the Monday night after No Way Out in 2002. I think it was March or April. He said Hogan was at the pay-per-view anyway, and there were 70,000 fans there all cheering Hogan. He was with NWO. He was supposed to be booed. The people were supposed to hate him because he was like supposed to be the WCW like evil invader guys type thing, right? But the fans cheered him. 70,000 people standing up screaming Hogan. People didn't want WWE to win that match. People wanted WCW to win that match. Hogan turning face is not something that shows that the gimmick didn't work and he had to leave. 70,000 people stood up and cheered his name because they like what he stands for. He didn't. So they cheer him. He doesn't have to leave the NWO. He could stay with the NWO. That was WCW versus WWE. That's what that match represented. It was No Way Out, and it had like 70,000 people there. I think it was No Way Out. But they had that to pay-per-view. And I sat back and looked at that, and I'm like, Vince, because the fans liked Hogan, because the fans chose WCW star over his, because Hogan came out as the leader of the NWO. They chose him. He may have lost the match, but the fans made it very clear who they thought their champion was. And then and Vince was like, no, that's done. He didn't want to accept the fact that WCW was what people preferred. But I'm sorry, Hogan was so hot and heavy and hugely involved with the NWO that I don't associate him with WWE. I think about Hulkamania as its own thing. Then I think about him in WCW with NWO. I argue that the WCW made Hogan a bigger star than what the WWE did. I mean, he did Thunder in Paradise and all these movies and stuff like that. But when he went to WCW, he started the NWO. That was a huge faction, and he won the world title. And I've actually met people that say, "Oh, Hogan, yeah, he started in WCW, didn't he?" And he beat Triple H, I think he beat Triple H for the World Undisputed Championship in like 2006, I think, or 7 or something. But yeah, what I want is AEW and WWE together. WWE has Raw on Monday nights and NXT on Wednesday nights, I guess, because they want to go against AEW. Then AEW have their Wednesday Night Dynamite on Wednesday nights. And maybe if there was enough interest, they can put on a second show at some other point in the week. Like 2 TV shows. And if you have two TV shows, you don't want to oversaturate the market with your guys. So you have certain guys on one week, and other guys on another week. So you have your guys who wrestle on Raw and your guys who wrestle on SmackDown. And then people will say, well, how will your titles be decided? To me, what I would say is you establish the number one contender, and then when a pay-per-view comes up, the number one contender of like SmackDown steps forward, like two SmackDown and wrestlers fighting their way, getting wins and stuff, and then they go against each other. Then the winner of that Raw goes against the winner of the number one contendership from Raw, and they get together and they have a match, and then the winner of that gets a shot at the World Heavyweight title. The World Heavyweight Championship is the Universal Championship, meaning that, but that's what WWE, I think this is what they're doing, can either show up on either Raw or SmackDown and fight in both. Not the this universal rule, wild card rule, and that'll apply to the champions, and then the shows will be determining like the number one contendership. And once you reach the number one contendership, they go against this one, and this one gets a chance to go up to be the champion, who is there to wrestle against them and can go on either show. There's rosters for Raw and SmackDown, but the champions can go between the two. I think that's what WWE is doing, and to be honest with you, that is a smart idea from a business standpoint. I mean, if you've got 130 fucking wrestlers signed, then chances are you're thinking about making a second show. And whether you put it on yourself, on your own streaming service, through a computer, through an app, people pay money to watch it as like, or a subscription or something, like, you're going to do that. If you have 130 fucking wrestlers, you're going to have a second match. I mean, a second show. You got to. Like, I mean, sure, they may be involved with their independent wrestlers like a motherfucker for the first 2 years. So busy slaving their asses, paying a lot of shit for a lot of other companies to, like, wrestle there. But the only way it does these smaller independent companies a favor is if the people who you're sending are known. If people know who they are. And the thing is, if they have only one show for 2 hours, they're not going to have enough airtime to showcase different talent they have, so they can make enough names known, so that way when those names go to a different area and they fight for matches and wins and stuff like that in other territories, those other territories, the smaller indie scenes, will get a boost because people will know who they are. Like, if right now, if somebody said, oh my god, kid, this is fucking huge match, and I'd be like, okay, who is it? And then they would be like, oh, it's Peter Avalon from AEW versus, like, fucking Brian Cage. I guarantee you, I sure as shit would not turn into that for Peter Avalon in any fucking day of the week. No, man. Brian Cage was at the at the Casino Battle Royale, but he was stopped last minute from going on because Impact Wrestling said that they didn't want their champion on another show. But he's the current Impact World Heavyweight Champion. Nick Aldis went to NWA. He's the NWA champion. The NWA severed their ties with Ring of Honor, and now they're getting their own live show. I bet you any money AEW is going to get involved with NWA. NWA. Man, they've had such a... Well, I mean, they were going good, really well, and then they absorbed WCW, or they were underlying part of it or some fucking shit, I don't know. But anyway, when WCW went out, then the TNA took over, and then they had them for, like, I think a period of, like, 4 years. Or it might have been more than that. No, about 4 years. And then after that, TNA dropped them and had their own, and then Billy Corgan bought NWA at that point because he didn't want them to go out of business because they were so important, and they were like on a lifeline, on a lifeline, on a lifeline. Now they're getting their own live show, but it's going to be like from different. They might have 4 or 5 different areas they go, but they're in set up studios for sporting events and sport shows and stuff like that. So it's like the impact zone, and sometimes they might have a few different areas they go, but it's still the same thing. It's not the same as a touring brand. So yeah, AEW does just as well in attendance as WWE. They do. They could have had huge fucking venues so far, man. Fucking huge. I think AEW's holding back a bit because they don't want to overwhelm their fucking stars. It's like, oh, here you go. Here's a fucking over 100,000 people. 124,000 requests verified by individual people from all over the world go to All Out this year. If they actually would have done that, I don't know if there's any buildings around that can hold 100 and 110, a minimum of 110,000. Like 110,000, 110. Like the Jacksonville Jaguars holds like 62,000. And that's what AEW could have had for All Out. It was it was like the trilogy to All In. But I think in order for All Out to be a success, they've got to have different. I hate to say it, but All Out every year would have to be their like pay-per-view that involves other shows, other promotions titles. It kind of has to happen. I don't want it to happen. I'd rather it be AEW, but All In is really what started it, and it was all different promotions coming together and having matches. And I think it's based off the New Japan Pro Wrestling model where there's different promotions in Japan, and once a year, New Japan Pro Wrestling hosts this event where they all get together on that one show. And I think AEW is looking at doing that. They want to build themselves into a global leader, so when they approach other promotions will appear on their shows, and they'll leave. I don't think AEW wants to buy anything out. I think they want to help prosper. AEW can build itself up as a huge brand like that, but at the same time do it in a way where, it's benefiting the other wrestling companies, and it's keeping those choices open. Those are all different wrestling companies compared to the WWE, who comes in, buys it out, done, gone. Buy WCW, buy ECW, buy CMLL, buy this Japanese company, buy India this, and turn it all to NXT this, NXT this, NXT this, NXT this, NXT this, all run by WWE. Like, it's killing wrestling. And Vince says it's not wrestling, it's sports entertainment, and Vince sees NXT as the second place and WWE is the first place. But WWE is trying to create an artificial wrestling war with itself, because they want to bring the same feeling back. And it's true. People love the idea of a wrestling war. They do. It's just the way it is, man. It has a magic to it. I don't know why. Like, yeah. So anyway, I am learning how to make videos, man. I just can't avoid making a long rambling video for my first one. I'll have to review this, cry a lot, and then make a second one that's better. I think after 2 or 3 videos, I might do it to be like make sense and say shit, and maybe I might have some software where I can bring in slides and stuff like that and talk about it as well. But this is just a rant. This is just a rambling rant. I think yeah, when it comes to their roster, there's 78 that we don't know about yet. 78. So They have 15 females and 37 males revealed. So they've got 78 wrestlers. I don't care. Province of Saskatchewan. Lose your vehicle. Sorry, tangent. Yeah. 78 wrestlers. They're on TNT, ITV, TSN, Fight TV, Bleacher Report Live. Every single venue they buy sells out. They're Fighter Fest, I don't think that was sold out, but it was close. And I think a Fight for the Fallen was sold out. Some people think it wasn't because you had that top part there empty, like 2 sections there. But actually, those were narrow sections, and the amount of people they added in the on stage, because they added like bleachers on stage and stuff, it was sold out. They added to the capacity. Basically, they added to the capacity by putting a shitload of chairs on the stage, and those sold. The amount of tickets sold was the equivalent of Daly's place selling out without adding chairs, right? So they said AEW said they sold out, but I don't think it's noted because of that. And then All Out sold out, and then Capital One Arena in Washington D.C. sold out, and then the Agganis Center in Boston sold out, and then the Luchasaurus or whatever center in Philadelphia, they sold out, and there's 2 more being advertised for Monday. And I tell you one thing right now. If AEW appears in Winnipeg or Edmonton or Calgary or Saskatoon or Regina, I'm going. It's going to happen. Oh, it will happen. Just you watch. But they sell out everything they have, like, so quickly. Everything they have sells out. Like, All In, this was just a one-off. Like, people seeing different wrestling promotions at the same show. They love it. Second time it happens, so it's not going to make a difference. So then Double or Nothing comes along, and that sells out in 4 minutes. And has, like, 13,000 people there. They got lucky. It was their first pay-per-view. It was, like, the hype of a new pay-per-view. And then Fyter Fest comes along, that did well. And then Fight for the Fallen came along, and that did really, really, really well. And All Out sold out in 15 minutes. The Sears Center in Chicago, and when they set it up, there is like at least 11,000 people there. Then they sold out the Capital One Arena, 10,000 tickets in like just under 3 hours on a Wednesday night. And I think what AEW really needs to do right now, man, if you want to fucking AEW needs to make those 2,000 seats available now. Because you fucking know that NXT is going to plan some big shit for that same night. It's a war. There's a lot more riding on this first TV episode than AEW realizes, and they need to get those fucking tickets out there now. They need to get those tickets out there now. Because if you have a full stadium, if you could say you're sold out, then the product can be what it is. You can always adjust on the product. As long as you're able to say you're sold out. If you're sold out, you can say, you know what, we may make a few mistakes right now, but we're consistently selling out. So we've got all the time in the world to become better for the fans. But NXT UK, they pitched it on Fox. It was just pitched. Then they pitched it to USA because USA Network is going to lose SmackDown to Fox. And then WWE approached them and said, okay, how about we put NXT on Wednesday nights, bump it up to a national television network, 2 hours live touring. And we're gonna take people from our main roster and our other rosters to do it. So basically, to the big networks, WWE is proposing, hey, let's add a third show. You're consistently consistently canceling house shows. There was 3 house shows canceled within the last month. There's 2 more canceled. One of them was on the same night as AEW All Out. Okay? The viewership has been struggling and lowest it's been in a long, long time. Raw's ratings got really, really, really big because they had a reunion. And then the Raw after SummerSlam was really highly rated. That's the only time that they do well. If they have a good pay-per-view, the Raw after that is really, really well. But other than that, they don't sell out at all. Not at all. WWE doesn't sell out. So they're coming here with 3 shows. How about we add a 3rd show, and then the networks are like, okay, you got Raw on Monday nights. You got SmackDown on Friday nights on USA. No, Fox Sports 1 on Friday nights. I don't know who has Raw on Monday nights. Somebody could tell me that. And on Wednesday nights now, they're looking at adding a 3rd 2-hour show, a primetime show called NXT, and to the USA Network. And they said, we're going to pull guys from our main rosters and put it on this show. It's going to be called NXT. And I'm like, NXT doesn't have to go anywhere, but you got Raw, you got SmackDown, and the attendance is so fucking bad that you're canceling house shows. Like, canceling multiple, like 5 times, even on the same night as your competitors, one of your competitors' events. What do you know? It's over here. Ew. Oh, I figured out how to have 2 screens with one computer. Yeah, that must be what my screensaver was, but I didn't see it because I see myself on the computer screen, and I was like, oh, it's not working. Anyway, yeah, now they want to add a 3rd show. And they're going to pull guys from the main roster and all that. If I was the networks, do you know what I would say? The ratings that Raw was getting, which was god-awful, they jumped for the reunion and they jumped for the episode after SummerSlam. That's it. Other than that, the ratings have been doing fucking shitty. You're canceling house shows constantly. Your attendance is really low. There was one show where there was like 3,000 people there or something. For an actual, this was like an episode, like a Raw or a SmackDown. You know, like, and you're pitching to add a 3rd show. Because the thing is, well, no, I think the show would still be from that one area. I think there's NXT happens from just one place all the time. But if they're going to make it a 2-hour live primetime show and take guys from the main roster and put it on, and it's going to be in the same venue, but they're going to have more of their main rosters on the show. The show is going to be, they're going to add production to it. They're going to increase the look. Like, they're going to change something about it in order for it to be on television. And NXT is going to become the next biggest show for WWE, I think. It's going to become the biggest show. I think that Raw has been around for a long time. It was around for Monday nights, and then it was on Monday nights because of the war with WCW, and then it was on Monday nights and when TNT tried to go up against them, and now it's been on Monday nights ever since. But now AEW went on Wednesday nights. They didn't want to compete with WWE, so they went on a different night of the week. And then Triple H comes out and says, "Oh yeah, well that's like we have our show, so they're scheduling themselves for a night that we're on. They're copying us." How the fuck can you say that? I'll tell you right now. Monday there's Raw, Tuesday there's 205 Live and SmackDown, Wednesday nights there's NXT. Now, starting October, SmackDown will move to Friday nights, which will be Monday Raw, Tuesday 205 Live, Wednesday NXT, Thursday don't know. There is NXT UK. I'm not sure if they have an episode, but if I believe they're on Thursdays, then they could be on Thursdays. And then Fridays, they would have SmackDown. They might actually have a show every day, every night of the week this year, except for Friday nights, and will on coming October 2nd. And then you're going to sit there and say, oh, well, they're putting their show on the same night as ours. And AEW has come forward and said, we didn't want to go on Tuesday nights because there's basketball on Tuesdays and Thursday nights on TNT. We didn't want to have to go up against basketball. We didn't go up on Monday or Friday nights either because we didn't want to go up against WWE. We picked Wednesdays because it's the middle of the week. People are more tired. They're starting to want to relax a bit because Monday's gone, Tuesday's gone, and Wednesday's gone. They've been working hard, and there's WWE is not on that night. TNT is not on. The NBA is not on those nights. Wednesday nights are free and clear, so that's what they did. And then WWE's got 205 Live here, NXT UK here, and fucking. NXT UK, 205 Live, all sitting over here, and you see some other tables talking to freaking the Mexicans and the Japanese people and all this other stuff, and they're putting on all these shows on their own damn network, and then when somebody else comes along and says, let's make our own shows, no, you're on this night. You got fucking shows every night of the week, you dumb bitch. You're gonna fucking end up running into a competition who wants it to be on the same night as you, because you got them every night of the week. How does that not make sense? But I still think AEW is going to do really well because WWE, I think, is for as corporate as they are and as most successful as they are, their success is going to be their own downfall. I think WWE's success is going to be their own downfall because they're going to keep doing so well and so well and so well and build up and buy out and buy out and buy out and buy out. And on the main roster, they're going to be in these like contracts saying that they have to work with like a creative team which doesn't do shit, and wrestlers hate it and they're so stifled. And then like people are going to be like, listen, like we're tired of this. WWE's been around forever. They've been around forever. We're tired of it. We don't want Raw. We don't want NXT. We don't want SmackDown. We don't want this. We don't want that. We don't Scabba-Dabba-Doo. We don't want it. It's you. We want a different company. We want something else that feels as exciting and as entertaining and as visually pleasing and as every bit as legitimate as you. We want that. There needs to be two. There can't only be one. There's only one for the last 18 years and it sucked. Like, money-wise, WWE has made more money than they ever have before. Why? Because they bought out all their major competitors, and it's only been them for the last 18 years. And Vince stock market, and he was friends with Donald Trump. Vince McMahon was friends with Donald Trump. Donald Trump was on WWE and all this other stuff, and now Vince has money he could talk about in the billions. Yeah, don't pull illusions. Don't tell me Donald Trump never pocketed Vince McMahon when Vince McMahon needed it at the time. I guarantee you. It would be very surprising if the big secret came out that WWE only survived the Monday Night Wars because Donald Trump was lining his pockets and Vince McMahon was operating at a loss that he wouldn't have been able to handle if it wasn't for this billionaire giving him money. Imagine if we found out that was the reason why WWE stayed in business. Because I know there was a couple of times during that war where he was very close to going out of business. And he survived, and everyone loves WWE for it. But there needs to be competition, man. There has to be more than one company. There can't only be one. I mean, they're canceling house shows. They're like stifling wrestlers like Luke Harper, Sasha Banks, Rey Mysterio, Dolph Ziggler, Jon Moxley, Chris Jericho, Dustin Rhodes, or Goldust, who it's criminal how much he's been denied. Absolutely criminal. and they go around the world and they buy up all these other promotions and rebrand it, and it's all the same company. And then your total aspiration, your long-term aspiration, is to be on Raw and SmackDown in the United States, because that's the holy grail, that's the holy land, that's the elite of the elite. That's what they want. But that's not happening because AEW came along and they said, okay, we're here and we're the next WCW. Okay, fuck you. This is happening again. And they went out on Wednesday nights because they didn't want to go. They didn't want to go up against Raw, WWE, who was on Mondays and Fridays, and they didn't want to go up and have to. They want to go up against or have to be juggled around basketball on their home network TNT, which is Tuesdays and Thursday nights. And they don't want to be on the weekend, so people are busy on the weekend. So they came and they said, okay, Wednesday nights are a neutral night. WWE's like, oh no, you're putting. Triple H subtly said, oh, they're on the same night as us. You've got 5 shows, and like you have like shows on every night of the week on your own network. Like, yeah, it's gonna happen. And AEW is just, everything they have is selling out like fast, like really fast. Everything they have, and I think AEW is starting off smaller, and they're gauging themselves in every way. I think what Tony Khan is doing now personally is he's doing shows with production and crews, and he's calculating how many people would have to be there paying customers for him to break even, and then he's going and running those shows, and then he's looking at his findings. He's like, okay, well, this show sold out for $5,000. I already have different like packages that I use to address different audience sizes. When it's 4,000, between 5 and 8,000, we do this. When it's between like between 5 and 9,000, when it's between 9,000 and like 16,000, we do this. And then when it's more than 16,000, that's the biggest thing. It's going to be very interesting to see the big crowds, man. Because they're going to have a big crowd for All Out. They're going to have a big crowd for the very first TV episode. Then their third episode is not going to be much. I'm estimating just over 5,000. The venue only holds 7,200. They need production, the stage area, and all that stuff. And it's going to be judged like a sport. Execution matters. Damage to your opponents, like your flow or your endurance. You know what I mean? It's not only about physically holding the guy right and landing a certain way and all this stuff, but it's also your flow through the match. How you're transitioning like through each section, and your overall like feeling as a wrestler, not just you're executing the moves, but how you're carrying yourself in the ring. Not even talking about taunting with the fans or talking with the fans at all. Just also the way you're moving your body, the way you're approaching it, because executing the moves is not the only thing you have to think about. You have to think about executing the moves, and you have to think about how you're moving in general, how you're carrying yourself, because that has a big thing to do with it too. They say 98% or 90% of the communication is nonverbal. So maybe you should be aware of how you carry yourself, right? With pulling the moves off really well. That's what AEW is focusing on. And technically, and the finishing moves they make, and the time it takes them, and all this other stuff, real sports analytics. And actually, a wrestler who starts, he's doing all the moves properly, he's not injuring anybody, you can clearly see he's graceful, and he doesn't botch anything, and it's always full clearance with it and everything else, and is putting forward an effort to communicate with the audience somehow. Those guys are going to go far. Well, this is the ramble. The next episode I'll be talking about why I think it was complete bullshit for Hogan to leave the NWO, because that was fucking stupid. He should never have left the NWO. That was more important than what people realized. And I don't remember. In the next episode, we'll be taking a look at the upcoming booked matches, who the number one contenders are, and could be. We're going to take into account the wins and losses mattering and try to figure out how that currently does and will affect the directions of the matches. So that's what we're going to be talking about next episode. Sitting here telling you what the next episode is no different than me saying it. Alrighty.